Welcome to the 5-Pack, where we talk about the 5 things that matter, 5 things that will matter, and a daily pack rip. Here is your host, Kyle Elfrink.
Welcome in on a Thursday, a very important Thursday if you are an NFL fan, because the future is about to be determined. Good to have you with us. It is the 5-Pack right here on the Better Sports Network. Kyle Elfrink hanging out with you for the next hour. Our producer today is Mike Torres. We'll give Heather Klein a day off. She deserves a day off every once in a while. You, though, and I, we don't deserve day offs. We got to do this every day. We got to tell you about the 5 things that mattered from last night, 5 things that will matter tonight, and, of course, the ever-popular pack rip at the end of the show. And today, in honor of the NFL draft, which will commence later tonight, we will rip open a football pack, a notable football pack, because back in the early 90s, everybody was making football cards. We had Score, we had Pro Set, we had Tops. I think, who else was going with football back then? Many, many others. And then these guys showed up. Upper Deck. First ever Upper Deck football set. They appeared with baseball in the ever popular 1989 set, the Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card. And then they said, you know what, let's get into football. And just as they did in baseball, Upper Deck kind of changed the game for football trading cards. So we will celebrate the dawn of a new era when it came to football trading cards. 1991 Upper Deck is coming your way. Brett Favre rookie, by the way, is in that set. And I think we also have Joe Montana autographs that we could pull here. So we'll get to that a bit later in the show. Today, as noted, is a very important day, or tonight, I guess I should say. The NFL kind of runs the house, if you will, in the sports world. And tonight, they will have their annual NFL draft, going to be taking place in Kansas City, Missouri. And we should note that right here at Better Sports Network, we are celebrating. We are having some fun. We invite you to join us for a Better Cast tonight on the BSN app. And we've been doing that a lot, and tonight's going to be a fun one because we will provide instant analysis of anything that happens in the draft, whether it's a trade, a simple pick, a trade up, a trade down, a guy falling, whatever it is. We'll give you the instant analysis, the fantasy impact. We'll have some contests that we are running during the festivities. That will begin later tonight at 7 o'clock Eastern. So it'll be app alone. You'll jump on the BSN app on your phone, and you can have some fun. A lot of people are going to be hanging out in there. A lot of our talent will be giving their takes as well. So it's kind of a fun and community vibe that we've got going tonight. Draft, of course, there is a lot of intrigue about quarterbacks, right? Because, hey, quarterbacks, that's all that matters, right? Quarterback. Tonight is no different. There are at least 4 quarterbacks who everybody's thinking about. Maybe that's the guy who could lead us to the promised land. We will discuss that coming up. But before we get to the NFL draft and everything that's going to go down tonight, let us take a look back at what went down last night. And let us begin in the National Basketball Association. We had a lot of good action on the court last night. The Knicks took care of the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Warriors, shocker, got a road win? Yeah, they did. I think they had 8 road victories all year. But they went to Sacramento, got a big road victory. And then, of course, we had the Bucks and the Heat. Game 5 in Milwaukee. The Bucks, the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, trying to stave off an upset bid from Miami. Let me set the scene for you. Milwaukee's at home. It's a must-win situation. Giannis is playing. The Bucks have dominated the second quarter. They have dominated the third quarter. They are up 16 points. 16 points entering the fourth quarter. And then here came Jimmy Butler doing what Jimmy Butler has done the entire series.
Out to jump. Good thing he didn't force it. Butler to his right. 6 on the shot clock. Back to the right for the jumper. It's good. 42 for Butler, and the Heat go up by 3.
Overtime jumper by Jimmy Butler. Well, he didn't get 56 like he had the other night, but he was into the 40s. Yet still, OT, Bucks have the ball, down by 2. Remember, they had blown a 16-point lead in front of the home fans. They'd blown that. Now they were down by 2. One last possession in the OT session.
Tight. Giannis to Middleton. To the paint. Out to Allen. 1 second left. He puts it up after the buzzer. The Heat have won the series. Miami defeats Milwaukee and advances to the second round. The Heat become just the 6th, 8th seed to knock off a number 1 team.
And the first one since 2012. What the heck just happened? What in the world? What? Milwaukee was an NBA Finals favorite. They were a championship favorite. They're out in the first round. And maybe they win game 5 and they lose in game 6. Maybe they win game 5, win game 6, and they lose in game 7. I don't know. But to lose in 5 games to the Heat, what in the heck happened? What happened is one of the more epic collapses that we have seen in NBA history. I reiterate, they were up by 16 points entering the fourth quarter. What happened in that fourth quarter was Jimmy Butler scored 14. Bam Adebayo had a good fourth quarter. What was it? 9 points, 6 boards, 5 assists. He was huge. Meanwhile, Giannis was 1 of 9 shooting from the field. 1 of 9. He played every minute of the fourth quarter. He was 1 of 9. For the game, listen to this number. And this always happens, whether it's an upset in a clinching game or any random upset. Missed free throws. The Milwaukee Bucks missed 17 free throws last night. They lost by 2 points. 13 of those 17 misses from the charity stripe were courtesy of Giannis Antetokounmpo, perhaps the best player in the NBA. You can make the argument. Missed 13 free throws. Now, he's never been a great free throw shooter, but he crumbled last night. And what matters here is, hey, Heat win. That's great. Huge upset. They will now advance to take on the Knicks. But what matters is Milwaukee is built for the here and now. And Milwaukee does have a title. They've got that 2 years ago. They were expected to be right there at the end again this season, and they get knocked out in the first round. Changes will come. And Mike Budenholzer, a guy who 2 years ago won the title as a head coach, he could be out. And there's a lot of criticism. And even Giannis after the game said, we didn't make adjustments, and Jimmy Butler killed us for all 5 games. To me, one of the amazing things about this or any NBA series is Jimmy Butler, who goes off in this series. What were the final averages? He averaged, let me see here. What was the total? 37.6 points per game. That's out of this world. 37. That's beyond Jordan at like his high point. That's what Jimmy Butler was doing in this series. And what's crazy about the playoffs is this is not Jimmy Butler in the regular season going off for 38 points per game over a 5-game stretch, because those are all different opponents and games off and days off and all that stuff. What we have here is facing the same opponent 5 straight games, and you cannot find a way in any of those games to even cause a bump in the road for Jimmy Butler. The guy hits 60% of his shots. I get it. The guys on the court, play some defense. You know, somebody take it upon yourself to slow the guy down. At the very least, push him around. But also the coaching staff, 5 games and you can't find an answer for this guy. Jimmy Butler's good. Jimmy Butler's really good. But there was no answer ever against Jimmy Butler. He ripped them to shreds every single game. Almost every single quarter in this series. No answers. So the onus is going to be on the coaching staff. As they always say, you can't fire Giannis. You can't. I will say at the end of that game, that last highlight we showed, courtesy of TNT, the ball gets in the hands of Giannis, he gives it up. The ball gets in the hands of Chris Middleton, he gives it up. And Grayson Allen is the guy you have driving to the hoop with the season on the line. Again, coaching. Speaking of the Heat and the Knicks, early odds on that series. The Knicks are installed as the favorite. DraftKings has them at minus 150 to take the series. Miami plus 110. I gotta say, after just seeing what Miami did, like the odds of the Heat. Now, I wish they were better than plus 110. And I think usually you'd see like a plus 120, 130. So obviously the attention the Heat have garnered, that has them at plus 110. I wonder if that number will maybe work against the Heat, but work for you in the next couple of days. Maybe they drop to about plus 120. We shall see. Hey, everybody likes to bet on the Knicks, right? Everybody enjoys a bet on the Knicks. So they're sitting at minus 150. Let us go to the NHL for our second moment that mattered. And we take you to Denver, Colorado, a game 5 between the Seattle Kraken and the Colorado Avalanche. Now, if you don't follow the NHL, let me again set the scene. Seattle is in their first ever playoff series, ever. They're up against Colorado, who won the Cup last season. Now, this is not a 1 versus 8, but this is a good team versus a team that just kind of snuck in against expectations this year. Well, last night, what happened? Well, last night we got a win for Seattle on the road in Denver, and the shocker of shockers is that the big goal in this game came from a player who, A, had never scored an NHL goal in his life, and from a player who had never played an NHL game in his life. Let's check out the highlight.
In the right wing corner. Tough to control, taken down. Crowd hoping for a call. McKinnon slams his stick on the glass, complaining that he should have been granted a minor, and the officials say play on. Eberle down low, shot, score! Cartier! Welcome to the NHL! Welcome to the playoffs! What a debut! Save the puck! It's 2-1 Kraken! Wow!
And they go on for a 3-2 road victory. They now lead the series 3-2. They're headed back to Seattle tomorrow night for game 6. Ty Cartier, literally his first ever NHL game. He played in the AHL this season. I think he played for Coachella out of California. And I think he was the rookie there. He's 21 years old. He shows up literally for game 5. He's only in there, by the way, because Jared McCann is out. You might recall Cale Makar, Avalanche defender, knocked Jared McCann out a couple of nights ago, did it illegally. McCann was out, probably going to miss game 6 too. Cale Makar, of course, suspended for that game 5 loss. Don't you love how that works? Okay, you want to knock out Jared McCann? You want to knock out our leading scorer? We're going to turn to a guy in Ty Cartier who has never played an NHL game, and he's going to beat you, Colorado. How about that? 3-2, Seattle is up. Fun times. I must say, the NHL and NBA playoffs are a different beast, but we always get upsets, don't we? And I know it's not as celebrated as the NCAA tournament, but we do get these very enjoyable 7-game series, 6-game series. Like even Florida-Boston. Last night, the Panthers get a win in OT against Boston. Boston is coming off a season where they put up the most points in NHL history. Now they're going to have to go to a game 6 in the first round. It's a totally different world, NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs. Mentioned that game on Friday night between Seattle and Colorado. It's back in the Emerald City. 10 o'clock for the start. TNT will have coverage there. The odds for the series, as you might expect, have totally flip-flopped. Seattle is minus 170 now to win this series. Colorado's plus 145. So those are the current odds. Let us move to our third moment that mattered from the Wednesday that was. We had a press conference yesterday. Yeah, press conference. Guess for who? Take a wild guess. Ah, yes, Aaron Rodgers. All cameras, all eyes, all the attention on the new Jets quarterback. Aaron Rodgers meeting with the media. And for the most part, it was a very ordinary, very boring press conference. You know, I came here to win. And yes, I'm a Jet now. And this is a storied franchise. And I'm not looking to the past. It's all about the future. Trying to win a Super Bowl. I think we can do it. Rah, rah, here, here, all that stuff. But there was also a particular Rodgerian. Is that a word? I'll make it a word. There was a particular Rodgerian moment where Aaron Rodgers just couldn't help himself. He had to talk about the past. He had to talk about how offended he was that the Green Bay Packers did not FaceTime him. Seriously, here it is.
I mean, I don't know if I need to really get into the specifics. I will say people that know me, I'm fortunate to live in a beautiful house. The only downside is I have very limited cell service. So if you want to get a hold of me, I have to see your face. You got to FaceTime me. So the only response to the communication thing is there's, records in your phone about who called you, when, FaceTime, and there wasn't any specific FaceTimes from any of those numbers that I was looking at. That's neither here nor there because we're at this position. Obviously, that's somehow, what the direction they wanted to go as far as they couldn't get a hold of me, which led for this to be the case. My point was if there was a change that wanted to be made, why wasn't that told to me early in the offseason? Now, obviously, my future was undecided at that time. I didn't know if I wanted to keep playing. I wanted to go into my darkness retreat and sit with it and contemplate. But when I came out, it was evident that it was retire or move on to a new team.
Does he actually listen to what he's saying? I feel bad for Robert Saleh up there. If you get a chance, WCBS with the footage there, the press conference. Robert Saleh just keeping his eyes down. Don't make contact with anybody. Don't smile. Don't chuckle. Don't say anything. Just let him be. Come on. This man makes over $40 million a year and he can't get cell service. See, folks, they're just like you and me. Just like I can't get cell service very well, too. I'm in my basement. Cell service. Me and Aaron Rodgers, peas in a pod. You got to FaceTime me, dude. I wonder if he gets email. Do you think he'd accept email? Text? Would he be offended if the Packers had texted him? Me personally, I hate FaceTime. Aaron Rodgers is the only guy that wants to be FaceTime because Aaron Rodgers is all about, I can see myself. I can look at it, and I'm not really paying attention to the face I'm looking. No, it's the space in the corner. Oh, yes, Aaron, you're looking brilliant as always. That's why Aaron Rodgers wants FaceTime. Seriously. Is there any other explanation for why Aaron Rodgers can't get cell service, can't do texting, can't do email? Can you Zoom? Is that available? Is that a good way to communicate with Aaron Rodgers? I wonder. And then he says, he admits I was on a darkness retreat. Well, if you didn't get cell reception at your house, you probably didn't get it on your darkness retreat. Who knows that Aaron Rodgers, his own house, which is a very nice house. He's lucky enough for that. But his own house is like a darkness retreat. He gets no cell service. Well, I will assure you, Aaron, you're now moving to New York City. My guess is you're going to have cell service. So this is already a win-win trade. Great, man. If nothing else comes out of this, let's say the Jets don't win a Super Bowl. Let's say Aaron Rodgers only hangs around for a year. If nothing else comes out of it, we will at least get Aaron Rodgers cell service. We'll at least get him that. Love the guy. I'm starting to enjoy the guy now. Now it's just like, what will he think of next? It was tiring for a bit. Now it's kind of comical, I think, at this point. Let us move to the fourth item that mattered from yesterday, and we will get a little baseball in here. More zeros. Yes, zero after zero after zero, courtesy of a guy who might be the most underrated, unknown, overlooked pitcher in all of baseball. Zack Gallen was on the hill yesterday against the Kansas City Royals.
We go to the fifth inning.
Got him. Back to the changeup. 4 consecutive strikeouts and 8 for the ball game for Zack Gallen.
And strike 3 call for Mean Parks. at home plate umpire Edwin Jimenez.
One behind Spencer Strider, the major league strikeout lead. He can tie him with one more strike to Bradley. Swing and a miss. Gallen strikes out the side in the fifth. He has punched out 10 in the ball game.
Valley Sports Arizona with the Zack Gallen moments. He finished with a couple of more strikeouts, 12 Ks in 6 1/3 innings. He is now your major league leader in strikeouts with 51. His K per 9, 10.2. Excuse me, 12.2. 10.2 is his K to walk ratio. This guy's doing nothing but strikeouts. He's 4-1 on the season, a 2.15 ERA. The whip is like 0.88. Zack Gallen is rolling. And we talked about Spencer Strider earlier in the week here on the show. Zack Gallen is moving closer in that early NL Cy Young voting. Right now, the odds have him at plus 350 for the Cy Young. Strider is still ahead of him at plus 200. Now, here's some good news if you own Zack Gallen, if you're enjoying the run. The straight run of zeros, 28 consecutive innings without a run allowed. I think the record, Oral Hershiser, what was that, 57? Right around there. So we're almost to the halfway point. Still a long bit of ground to cover, okay? But we're up to 28 consecutive scoreless innings. The next 4 starts for Zack Gallen, if you play things out, they figure to be at Texas versus Miami versus San Francisco and at Pittsburgh. Those 4 lineups are not going to be greats. Miami, San Francisco, Pittsburgh, and Texas. Again, Texas is without Corey Seager. So he's got a run coming up. It's one thing to take care of the Royals, and kudos to Zack Gallen. He made the Royals look like the Royals with a dozen strikeouts. But the next few matchups ain't all that difficult either for Zack Gallen. So mostly unknown. Last 37 starts, 16-5, 2.5 ERA, 0.9 whip. He's up there. He's looking good. Got to keep him healthy. Like so many pitchers, got to keep him healthy. Let's go to our 5th item, the final item that mattered from last night. Shall we talk stolen bases? Let's talk stolen bases. Let's talk about a guy who, for the first time since 2019, he became the first player in almost 4 seasons to have 4 stolen bases in a single game. Astory Ruiz had that theft-heavy game last night in Anaheim.
Give him any opportunity to use the clock to his advantage.
There he goes. Swing and a miss, and no throw to second base. It's a stolen base, and that is 4 steals in this game for Ruiz.
Like the sound of that, right? He's up to 9 for the season. 4 steals last night. He's 9 for 9 on the season. Now, Ruiz was a guy that a lot of people liked as a rather cheap stolen base threat coming into the year. He's obviously paying off. I'll tell you another thing. The big surprise with him, 10 RBIs. He actually has more ribbies than steals. Nobody was calling for that. The other positive with Ruiz, and this is something that when we talked about him in the preseason, we constantly pointed out. What else is Oakland going to do? Who else are they going to play? What are they playing for? As expected, they have been brutally terrible this year. They suck. They're awful. They're bad. Everything we thought. For once, we can say all of us were right. A's suck, okay? Here's the good news. The A's are rolling out Astory Ruiz every single day. Every day. They have played 25 games. Guess who has started 25 games? Astory Ruiz. The last, 10 games, he's been leading off. He had been hitting 9th, little bit of 1, number 9. Now they're just rolling him out as a leadoff hitter. So that's great news. Playing every single day, as he should. It's the A's. What else are you doing? And he's leading off. And as we saw last night, he's stealing bases. He's only getting on base at like a 340 clip. And I say only. That's not terrible. But I will warn you. Here's the warning. Astory Ruiz has a 340 OBP, which if the season ended today, you'd be happy with 340. If he can maintain that all year, you're going to be ecstatic about it. If he stays at 340, he's getting 50 steals. At least 40. That's what he's doing. The issue is, can he stay at 340? And I'll just point this out. He has been hit by a pitch 7 times already. That is in 102 plate appearances. If he were to get, let's dream here, 550 plate appearances, that means he is on pace for like 40 hit by pitches. So he leads the majors by a big gap here with 7 hit by pitches. So that current 340 OBP, it's kind of baked in with the 7 HBPs. That is helping him maintain that OBP. One last thing on stolen bases, because seeing Ruiz do what he did last night, it got me thinking. Right now, and Ruiz is not on this list. Remember, he only has 9 steals. But right now, we have 5 players who have double-digit steals for the season. They are Ron Acuna, G1 Bay with Pittsburgh, Nico Horner, Corbin Carroll, and Cedric Mullins. 5 guys with double-digit steals. Today is April 27th. So we still have 3-4 days left to go in the month. Last season, we had 0 guys with double-digit steals at the end of April. 0. We've already got 5, and we got 2 or 3 more knocking on the door. Ruiz is one of them. So that will be, we're always saying, oh, what's different this year? There's a big one. Nobody with double-digit steals in all of baseball at the end of April last year. This year, we're going to have 6, 7, 8, maybe 9 at the end of the month. Those are the 5 things that mattered from last night. When we return, it's the 5 things that will matter tonight. Warning, it is all NFL draft. We're just living in their world. So it's a lot of NFL draft coming your way. Speaking of the draft, let's tell you what we're doing here today and tomorrow at the Better Sports Network.
NFL Draft is now officially open.
Better Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm presents the 2023 NFL Draft Bettercast, covering the fantasy football and sports betting angles of the NFL Draft.
Are you ready? Let's get it started.
Rookie scouting reports, NFL player comparisons, instant projections, draft props, and live betting. Live reports from Fantasy Alarm's Britt Flynn in Kansas City. Follow the NFL Draft and play our live Q&A contest for your chance to win fabulous prizes.
With the first pick,
This is the 2023 NFL Draft Bettercast on Fantasy Alarm and Better Sports Network.
Welcome back to the 5-Pack. Next up, the 5 things that will matter. Here's Kyle Elfrink.
Welcome you back into the Thursday edition of the 5-Pack. We are here each and every day, 12 o'clock Eastern, Monday through Friday. What you might have missed, what you need to make sure you don't miss, and also doing a pack rip. Coming up later in just about 10-15 minutes, 1991 NFL Upper Deck. And we're doing some football because, hey, today is a football day. You just heard about our coverage here at BSN. We got another thing to tell you about. If you go over to bettersports.com right now or anytime throughout the day, we've got a bit of a contest where you can predict how the NFL draft will go. Now, don't go off predicting before I give you my take coming up. You're going to want my info. But after you get my info, go to bettersports.com, register, make your predictions for tonight's NFL draft. And if you emerge at the top of the heap, we'll give you a $100 Visa gift card. That's $100 to spend on whatever the heck you want. Beer, food, diapers, $100. Card packs, whatever you want. So go over to bettersports.com, get registered, and make your predictions for tonight's NFL draft. Speaking of that NFL draft, for the first time in the history of the 5-Pack, it's a very short history, but still for the first time in the history of the 5-Pack, all 5 items come from football, the NFL, and there aren't even games. There is no action today, tomorrow. There is no action for 4 months in the NFL, but we're still talking about it today. The NFL draft is here. It will begin later this evening. I think they start up at 8 o'clock Eastern, maybe with that first pick. There's all the hullabaloo. Who knows when they start, but you can find it on 5 different networks, I think. There is a lot of coverage of the NFL draft. The 5 things that will matter tonight. Let's give them to you. I'm going to start with number 1. Number 1 is what's happening at number 1. Carolina Panthers made that big trade to move up to number 1, flip-flopping with the Chicago Bears. And everybody knew when they made that trade, they were probably looking at one of these 2 guys, C.J. Stroud, there on the left, and over on the right, Bryce Young. Now, as of now, the winds are blowing in the direction of Bryce Young. And there's a lot of discussion about C.J. Stroud and certain gradings and certain breakdowns of how he handles things, certainly on the field, the processing, if you will. Frankly, C.J. Stroud did really bad with a test that everybody should do pretty good on. C.J. Stroud was miserable on it. Bryce Young was fine. Now, I will go with the public at large here, the people who study this stuff, that Bryce Young's probably your number 1 pick. With Bryce Young, you got a pretty slender dude, like Colin Kaepernick kind of slender. Now, he's not as tall as Kaepernick. He's just a small dude. There you see the first round, and Charlotte there at the top, Carolina there at the top. 3 of those first 4 teams, Panthers, Texans, Colts, they need QBs. The Cardinals do not because they have Kyler Murray, but we're probably going to get a QB at 1, and we may get QBs elsewhere. Now, before we go to those other QBs, quick thing on Young. It's not just the slender look, the lack of weight on him. People question his arm. There's been some questions about kind of like the urgency. It's almost like things are too smooth for Bryce Young. You know, did he not have any pressure while playing behind that Alabama offensive line? Whatever you want to do, Carolina's got to take a quarterback. Now, I will talk about this coming up. To me, I'm not really sold on any of these guys. So Carolina's put themselves in a spot where they got to have a quarterback, and they've got an owner that wants a quarterback, and they've got a team that needs a quarterback, so yada, yada, yada. So I get it. You're going to take a quarterback. And a lot of these teams, I don't think they necessarily believe, oh, my God, this guy's the next Dan Marino, or, my God, this guy's the next Patrick Mahomes. Those guys are few and far between. We'd all like to think that's what these teams are getting, but honestly, they're not. I don't think any of these 4 guys are that. Bryce Young, if that's the guy you're choosing, go with him. So I think Bryce Young's going to be the pick. I'm not sold that he will be a superstar. I will say Carolina's built a pretty good team. Defense is fine. They got a pretty decent collection of offense. Bryce Young needs to be an average quarterback, and heck, in the NFC South, they can win. So no problems if that's their choice, and we'll see where it goes. Now, moving on to the second thing that will matter tonight, it's where do these other guys go? Because as noted, we got other quarterbacks. You saw C.J. Stroud. We got Bryce Young. Will Levis with Kentucky. You also see there Anthony Richardson. Richardson's kind of the wild card in this whole thing. If you were to stack these guys up, Stroud, we're wondering about, okay, the processing. You know, we're wondering about, boy, test scores. Do they matter? With Will Levis, we're wondering, you know, is this guy anything more than an arm? You know, is there actually a quarterback in here besides the arm? With Bryce Young, is there an arm? Is he big enough? Look at Bryce Young there. He's a thin guy. And with Richardson, it's why were the numbers not there in college? Why did he not win at Florida? You know, is he too raw? And some teams will say, oh, too raw for us. Other teams will say, that's what we want, man. A guy who we can form and trade. He's got all the natural ability, all the talent. It's there. We just got to get it out. We got to make it work. So all 4 of these guys, there are probably at least a half dozen teams that would like to get their hands on any one of these guys. And we saw the draft board earlier. It's very fair to say 3 of the top 4 teams are thinking quarterback. Now, there is a lot of whispering about Houston maybe saying, you know what, we're fine with Davis Mills for now, and we'll take a great defender like Will Anderson at number 2. There is also the belief, and this has been kind of managing its way through NFL draft circles over the last 48 to 72 hours, that everybody should wait for Caleb Williams next season, who will be coming out of USC. Just wait for him. He's a better quarterback. And if you're Houston, you say, well, we'll go into the year, we'll win 3 games, 4 games, get that number 1 pick. Remember, the NFL does not do a draft lottery. What the NFL says is the more you lose, the better your draft pick. So they have created an entire production of who can lose the most games. So Houston may say, well, we're not really sold on Stroud or Levis or Richardson. We'll just be really bad again this year. We'll take a shot on Williams for next year. So it's not preordained that Houston goes QB. I would say it's 60-40 that they go QB, but don't be shocked if they bail on the QB. Don't be shocked if Arizona stays where they're at 3. They don't trade out and they take a Will Anderson, especially if Anderson doesn't fall to Arizona at 3, I could see Arizona trading out and then somebody leaping up to get a CJ Stroud, somebody leaping up to get Anthony Richardson. Because remember, the Colts are at 4. So Houston is kind of at the controls here with what happens with Arizona. Because if Houston goes Anderson, then Arizona is going to beg and plead and kick their way out of the 3 spot. And they're going to hope a team like Vegas or a team like Minnesota, maybe a team like Washington gets excited and they leap up to number 3 to get whatever QB they want. But I will say with all 4 of these QBs, I'm not sold on any of them being the guy. In fact, I'll make a prediction. Save this one for posterity, okay? 5 years from now, at the start of the 2028 season, and this may sound like it's a risky bet, but it's really not. 5 years from now, none of those 4 quarterbacks, Richardson, Young, Stroud, Levis, none of them will be starting for the team that drafts them tonight. Okay? That's my prediction. Now, are any of us here 5 years from now? I don't know. I love making predictions that, like, who's going to remember this? But you will. It's the internet. You can save this. 5 years from now, my prediction, none of those 4 is starting for the team that drafts them. That's what I'm saying. Where will they go? Here's what I've got. I've got Young to Carolina. I got Stroud to Houston. I think the Texans will take them. I have Richardson to Indianapolis. I have Levis going to Minnesota. Minnesota trading up. Maybe to around the 8th spot, 10th spot, 12th spot, but Minnesota trading up to get their quarterback of the future. Because right now they're low 20s, I think, mid 20s. And we'll talk about this coming up. You might say, well, what are they going to have to give up? They may have to give up a big name. We'll get to that in just a bit. Moving to our third thing that will matter for tonight, running backs. You know, lately, it has not been cool to draft a running back early. They're not worth anything. Look at NFL free agency the last couple of months. If you're a free agent running back, you got pennies. You got nothing. Like offensive guards are like quadrupling your pay. Doesn't matter if you're Miles Sanders or Jamal Williams or David Montgomery. You got nothing in free agency. But there is a running back tonight that may change the storyline we've all been reading for the past decade. The storyline is, hey, running backs don't matter. You can get them whenever you want. Bijan Robinson of Texas might be different. Bijan Robinson might be the rare Saquon Barkley type of guy, the Derrick Henry type of guy, the running back that teams want to go get, that they will invest in the first round. Here's the problem as I see it. Is there any team in this draft that is absolutely needy for a running back? And honestly, I don't think there is. You know, the teams we hear are Denver and Miami and Tampa and Arizona, the Chargers, the Vikings, the Bengals. Now, most of those teams have guys returning from last season, guys that they were fine with playing again this season. Maybe they say Bijan Robinson is a difference maker, but if the season started today, all those teams I just ran through, they would have a running back. It wouldn't be a great running back, but they'd be okay, I think, with the guys they have. What's interesting is the last 3 teams I mentioned, the Bengals, the Chargers, and the Vikings. Now, if you're thinking out loud, you're saying, why in the hell would the Bengals have Mixon? The Chargers have Eckler. The Vikings have Dalvin Cook. Why would they want Bijan Robinson? They would want them because we are hearing a lot of rustlings. Mixon could be out in Cincinnati. Dalvin Cook could be traded. Austin Eckler is wanting a giant contract, and the Chargers are said not to be interested in it. I won't predict anything tonight, but all 3 of those guys, they're on the market. Their names will be mentioned in calls tonight, guaranteed. Now, again, which teams are going to pay the price for those guys? Because this position is one where you don't need Dalvin Cook. You can survive with Raheem Mostert. That, you know, you don't need You don't need Saquon Barkley. You can survive with Dameon Pierce. That's the argument. But Bijan Robinson is seen as a little different. Bijan Robinson is seen as like, okay, this kind of Barkley or Henry-esque type of talent. So we'll see if anybody makes the leap forward. My guess is nobody trades up, but we're still going to see Robinson go in the mid-teens. Now, if he falls into the 20s, someone will trade up. Someone will make that move. But I think overall 15, 16, kind of where he goes off the board. Our fourth item that will matter tonight, can I introduce you to a position that, whereas running back is kind of receding, the tight end position is kind of progressing. It's becoming more and more important. NFL teams are starting to realize, hey, we can get some players here. And you see three of them right there. That's Darnell Washington of Georgia. That's Michael Mayer of Notre Dame. That's Dalton Kincaid of Utah. Now, there are a couple of other guys. Sam Laporta with Iowa. Luke Musgrave with Oregon State. Pretty well wherever you go, those 5 tight ends are all seen in most spots as top 50 players, which we never get that at tight end. And we may see a couple of these guys in the first round, maybe 3 guys in the first round. It is possible. Kincaid of Utah, probably the top guy. Mayer's right there with him. Both those guys probably go 1-2 at the position. But we are seeing NFL teams be a little more interested in investing in tight ends. And this kid with Georgia, by the way, Darnell Washington, 6'7", 270. Let me say that again. 6'7", 270. Huge, massive. And he's probably not the receiver like a Kincaid or a Mayer is, but he can catch a football. And at 6'7", 270, you probably think you can turn him into a decent blocker. But the tight end position is becoming more and more important. We're starting to see it more and more in drafts. We've had Hawkinson lately. We obviously had Kyle Pitts. We could see 2 or 3 guys in the first round tonight. So that position gaining a little more interest in NFL circles. Finally, the fifth item that will matter tonight. Do we get any big trades? There will be trades tonight. There will be draft pick swap. The question is, do we see any players swapped? And I'm not talking about drafted players. I'm talking about guys like DeAndre Hopkins, like Dalvin Cook, like Jerry Jeudy, like Joe Mixon, maybe Lamar Jackson. There are a lot of guys that are on the trade block. And I don't know if we're going to get any of them. I doubt we get all of them. But if we get 1 or 2, it's going to shake things up. Like Minnesota. They decide they want to move up for Will Levis. Do they find a team that will take Dalvin Cook? DeAndre Hopkins, he's already said he wants out of Arizona. He'd been rumored to go to New England for like months now. It hasn't happened. You got the Lamar Jackson thing, the Eckler thing, the Mixon thing. There are a lot of guys, and I doubt much of it goes down tonight. I think everybody will kind of let the dust settle, see where you are coming out of the draft, and then make decisions. But we could still see 1 or 2 big names that could be flipped going into tonight. Again, full coverage on the Better Sports app. Make sure you download it today and enjoy our Better Sports broadcast and fun, if you will, of covering the draft. We're going to have instant analysis. We'll have some trivia, have some good back and forth. It's taking place all evening long. That starts at 7 o'clock Eastern tonight on the BSN app. Those are the 5 things that will matter for tonight. I'm guessing tomorrow when we meet again, the 5 things that mattered from Thursday night, probably a lot of NFL draft. We'll see how much depending on how exciting it is. But again, draft begins tonight. First of 3 days of nothing but the future for the NFL. When we come back, it is time for our daily pack rip in honor of the NFL draft tonight. We're going to open up an NFL pack 1991 inaugural edition Upper Deck Football. That is next right here on the 5-pack.
NFL draft is now officially open.
Better Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm presents the 2023 NFL Draft Bettercast. covering the fantasy football and sports betting angles of the NFL Draft.
Are you ready? Let's get it started.
Rookie scouting reports, NFL player comparisons, instant projections, draft props, and live betting. Live reports from Fantasy Alarm's Britt Flynn in Kansas City. Follow the NFL Draft and play our live Q&A contest for your chance to win fabulous prizes.
With the first pick,
This is the 2023 NFL Draft Bettercast on Fantasy Alarm and Better Sports Network.
Welcome you back to the 5-pack right here at the Better Sports Network. Kyle Elfrink with you on this Thursday. We have provided you with the 5 things that mattered from last night. We got you set for the NFL Draft with 5 things that will matter tonight. We conclude things by going through the past. Yes, let's talk pack rips. Let's talk some NFL football. Let's talk 1991 Upper Deck. That will be our profiled pack rip today. I mentioned the Joe Montana autographs. There are 2,500 personally autographed Joe Montana football cards in this set. Although I think that goes for about $350 right now on the market. Probably the most easily available card that is actually worth something is a rookie. It is a guy who was not drafted in the first round back in 1990, but he was drafted by the Atlanta Falcons. He really never became anything with the Falcons. He had to go to Green Bay to become something. This is the year. Brett Favre rookie card. That is what we're on the hunt for. That rookie card goes for about $80 from this 1991 Upper Deck football set. And there's actually like 3 Brett Favre cards here. There's the one in the first series, which is like, hey, Brett Favre's been drafted by the Falcons. Then there is another one of like a subset of like rookie hot shots, and Brett Favre is the one to get there. Then there is a checklist of those rookie hot shots, which features Brett Favre. So I guess Upper Deck knew what they were doing. They had a lot of Brett Favre. And they were ahead of game because Brett Favre sucked for like his first 2 years in the NFL. So Upper Deck stuck with it. Here's the thing with Upper Deck, action photos. None of that crap of guys sitting on the benches after they scored a touchdown. We want to see the touchdown, not them drinking out of a Gatorade bottle on the side. So here we go. 1991 Upper Deck. Only 12 cards in this set. This sucker probably run you about $1.59 back in 1991. Today we open it for free on the 5-pack. Tinfoil, baby. Tinfoil. Listen to that. No wax pack here. Nothing but tinfoil. Okay, this is going to be I've got a fancy. I'm going to have to check that. Wow. Mike Torres, we may have you check a card. It looks fancy. I don't know if it is fancy. Let me get all these in order. Because one thing with Upper Deck, they would pack them forwards, backwards, upside down, right side up. So I'm going to get all these suckers in order. Try to make sure they're straight. Okay, here we go. Let us get rolling with our pack rip here on the 5-pack. We will start. Hey, I told you, action photos. Vince Newsom of the LA Rams. Looks like he's is that a sack maybe he's pulling off? I don't know who Brooks is. I think Brooks was a wide receiver for the Colts back in the day. Vince Newsom, the safety. And you get the rare call here. See what he got tackled on? Can you see that? Dirt. Yes, they were playing in Anaheim back then. Same stadium that the Angels still play at. That is where the LA Rams played at back in the day. This is before they moved to St. Louis. This was in the dark days of LA Ramdom. So Vince Newsom, a safety who holds a rare honor. I don't know how many of these guys there are, but this is a rare honor. Vince Newsom, check out where he was born. Braintree, England. English? Guessing a military base out there in Braintree, England. Vince Newsom, one of the rare guys to make the NFL, born in England, also known as the UK. So there you go. Action photos, horizontal photos, This is what I'm talking about. This is what Upper Deck did. Here's another thing they did. And this, I tell you what, it's kind of old-fashioned, but it's still cool. Like, I'm looking at this now. This is a special insert. These are the game breakers, I guess. And maybe Mike Torres, you can do a search on this. This would be 1991 Upper Deck Game Breaker. It's an Emmitt Smith hologram. Now, I know this is very different. Can you see that glare there? See the X's and O's? Emmitt Smith Game Breaker card. Look at that. I think there's a good angle. Pretty cool. Now, the back is normal, but we get an Emmitt Smith Game Breaker card. I like this. I don't know what it is, but even in my 40s, getting a hologram and looking at a hologram is kind of cool. Kind of cool. So I like that. That's an insert. I do not know how common these are. I don't think this is anything spectacular, but cool nonetheless. And again, 1990s, man. Holograms, baby. It was a new age. Holograms. Emmitt Smith. Oh, wow. Mike says this is almost $100 online. I tell you what, we have pulled a lot of good cards over the days and weeks of doing our pack rip. And I mentioned this earlier in the week, and I think we're going to do this here on the 5-pack. And this card will be a part of it. I think we're going to do weekly giveaways. Now, my wife would sell those cards, Kyle. Don't give them away. But hey, I'm here for the people. I'm here for the BSN listener and follower. So we're going to find a way maybe to give away these nice cards. Make it a little fun, a little more interactive. So there we go, the Emmitt Smith Game Breaker. I will, barring a Joe Montana autograph, we're not going to top this card. Even the Brett Favre rookie, I don't think is better than that. So that's a cool one. Look at that. I'm a winner. Woohoo! Dave Craig, Mr. Fumble. Dave Craig was a very solid NFL quarterback, but he had all sorts of issues fumbling the football. Ton of fumbles. Now, the back of this card does not list fumbles by the quarterback, but just trust me on this. Dave Craig did. If they measured hands back in the day, remember we heard the Kenny Pickett stuff? Oh, Kenny Pickett's hands are too small. Dave Craig had small hands too, and he fumbled the football a lot. I think Dave Craig's number 17 was bigger than his hands. That 17 is massive. Look at that thing. I mean, that's like Polk High with Al Bundy. That's the kind of uniform we've got there. Number 7. My God, that number. I don't know if that's just the angle. That 17 is massive. I mean, that runs from shoulder to belly button. That's how big that sucker is. Here's a man who is part of the radio field. Boomer Esiason. These are his Cincinnati days. He eventually went to New York. He was in New York to end the slump without a Super Bowl in New York. That was in the mid-90s. That slump at that point was about 3 decades old. Now we are in the mid-2020s, and the Jets are still looking for a quarterback to lead them to the Super Bowl. Esiason never got the Jets to a Super Bowl. Did get the Bengals to a Super Bowl. And here you can see he was the team MVP. Blonde-haired boomer. Never going to be another boomer, right? Now we call people boomers, and it's an insult. Back then, it made you cool in the middle 90s. Here's our star rookie who was never a star rookie. And this is funny. I was just talking about the Jets. On a day where we're kind of mocking Aaron Rodgers, the newest Jets savior, on a day where we pull an old Jets savior that never was, the very next card is another Jets savior that never was, Browning Nagel, who was drafted out of Louisville by the Jets. Let's see. He was the 34th player taken in the 1991 NFL draft. Played at Miami, then transferred to Louisville. There he is. He tore it up in the Fiesta Bowl. 20 of 33, 451 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. Louisville beat Alabama 34-7. That performance vaulted him into the hearts of the New York Jets. And because this guy failed as a draft pick, the Jets then went to this guy. Funny how that works, right? This pack has not been opened in over 30 years. And it's almost as, again, and Upper Deck was predicting the history of the Jets there. Let's go to a Ram, a very good Ram, Henry Ellard. You know, the Rams had those great receivers, Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt, once they moved to St. Louis. a lot of the records that they set in St. Louis, they broke Henry Ellard records. Henry Ellard, very productive, 86 catches in 88, 70 catches in 89, and 76 catches in 1990. Rams weren't all that great in the late 80s, early 90s, but Henry Ellard was a good one. This is not a Jim Everett card. This is a James Francis card. You'd be confused, but James Francis is the guy delivering the sack there on Jim Everett. Old Jim Everett, always going to be remembered for throwing over a table on the Jim Rome show. We move next to a running back, Tim Worley, who appears to have stolen the outfit of Jerome Bettis. Look at those big shoulder pads, Tim Worley. I think Tim Worley had some off-the-field issues, but, man, he knew how to build some shoulder pads. Check that out. I don't know what's more impressive, the shoulder pads of Tim Worley or the number 17 of Dave Craig. What is bigger here, the shoulder pads or the 17? You got that coming your way, like, oh, my God, this guy's going to truck me. This guy's going to deliver some pain. That's what I'm getting ready for. Team MVP, Steve DeBerg. Steve DeBerg, who came on for an injured Joe Montana that season and got the Chiefs into the playoffs, I believe. It was his 14th year. Check this out. I'll just read you the back. DeBerg's 14th NFL season in 1990 was his finest. Think about that. It's kind of like, you know how Geno Smith had a great season this year. And it's like, wow, he's been in the league 8 years. And this guy was in the league 14 years before he pulled off what Geno Smith did. Steve DeBerg. He was old. He was old. Led the Chiefs to the playoffs. 11-5 record. Took over for Joe Montana. There's Steve DeBerg. Look at him airing out a pass. Okay. Wow. Thanks, Upper Deck. A checklist. Again. I mean, thanks for the Emmitt Smith hologram, but then you hit me with a checklist. Maybe I'm not a winner. Here's a guy who was a sackmeister in the late 80s, early 90s, Chris Dishman. Looks like he's making a tackle there. Or no, was it? Actually, he wasn't the sackmeister because Dishman was a defensive back, cornerback. I'm thinking of Dolman. I'm thinking of Chris Dolman is who I'm thinking of. So there he is. Here's an all-time great. Art Monk. Art Monk, man, he was so important to the Redskins' success in the 80s. Art Monk, Hall of Famer, big-time numbers. Look, Art Monk still had the hops, baby. Look at that play. Love the double photos from Upper Deck. And then we will conclude our pack with Wesley Carroll, a draft pick. Where'd he go? Went to Miami. The Saints selected him number 42 overall out of Miami, and he never became a thing in the NFL. So that is our pack rip for the day. And boy, I'm going to go get me some lunch. Turn this sucker in, get me a hamburger. Maybe I'll get one of those Shake Shack burgers. Oh, look at that. Game breaker out of our 1991 Upper Deck set. Love it. More of this tomorrow, 12 o'clock Eastern. Tonight, the NFL draft. We will have the app up and rolling. You can win prizes, $100. Make some predictions over at bettersports.com. We'll see you on Friday, folks.